The bass from Club Lux still pounded in Jordan Blake's skull as he stumbled out onto Howard Street at 2:47 a.m. The San Francisco fog had rolled in thick, turning the financial district into a blur of streetlights and shadows. He pulled out his phone, squinting at the screen through champagne-soaked eyes. $200 million. That's what he'd made today. His crypto exchange, Blake Chain, had just closed a deal with 3 major investment firms. $200 million in a single afternoon. He'd celebrated appropriately. $15,000 bottle service, models whose names he'd already forgotten, and enough Clays Azul to make even standing upright feel like an achievement. His phone showed a black Tesla Model 3 waiting at the curb. License plate, 7KJR492. Jordan yanked open the back door and collapsed into the seat, his Gucci loafers scuffing against the floor mat. Financial District, Battery Street, the Millennium Tower, he slurred, not looking up from his phone. Behind the wheel, Riley Martinez had been scrolling through her community college portal, checking her financial aid status for the 3rd time that night. The answer was the same: pending. Allow 6 to 8 weeks for processing. She had 2 weeks before tuition was due. She glanced in the rearview mirror at her unexpected passenger. This wasn't Miguel Reyes, the graphic designer she was supposed to pick up from Club Lux. This was someone else entirely. Someone who'd clearly never heard the phrase please or thank you. "Excuse me, I'm waiting for—" "Did you not hear me?" Jordan's voice cut through the car like a knife. "Battery Street, Millennium Tower. Jesus, is this your first night driving?" Riley's jaw tightened. She looked at her phone. Miguel had canceled 30 seconds ago. She'd been so focused on her financial aid status that she'd missed the notification. This drunk asshole must have seen her Uber light and assumed she was his ride. She should correct him. Tell him to get out. Wait for the next ride? But it was almost 3 a.m. She'd been driving since 11 a.m., 14 hours straight. She'd already worked a breakfast shift at the diner in the Tenderloin from 6 to 10 a.m., driven Uber from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., attended her only class at City College at 4 p.m., then driven Uber again from 6 p.m. until now. Her feet ached. Her back screamed. Her eyes felt like sandpaper. And this ride to Millennium Tower? Probably a $15 fare. Maybe $20 with surge pricing. She needed every dollar. Millennium Tower. Got it. Riley started the trip on her app, pulled away from the curb. Jordan was already typing furiously on his phone, his fingers moving with the manic energy of someone who'd done way too much cocaine in a bathroom stall. His suit jacket, Tom Ford, probably $4,000, was rumpled and stained with something that looked like champagne. "God, what a night," he muttered, loud enough for Riley to hear. "Closed the biggest deal of my career, $200 million. He laughed, a sharp bark that made Riley flinch. "You know what that feels like?" "Course you don't. No offense." Riley said nothing. She'd learned early in her Uber career that engaging with drunk passengers was a gamble. Sometimes they were funny, sometimes they were sad, sometimes they were violent. This one, she could already tell, was going to be arrogant. "Been grinding for years for this moment," Jordan continued, apparently unable to tolerate silence. "People don't understand the sacrifice, the hustle, the vision. You gotta be willing to risk everything, you know? That's what separates winners from—" He gestured vaguely at the windshield. "Everyone else." Riley's hands tightened on the steering wheel. She turned onto Market Street, the empty road stretching ahead like a dare. "You go to school?" Jordan asked suddenly. "Yes." "What are you studying?" "Nursing." "Nursing!" He laughed again. That's good. Solid career. Very stable. Not exciting, but stable. You'll make like what, 60 grand a year? 70 if you're lucky?" Riley's jaw clenched so hard her teeth hurt. "I made $70,000 in the time it took me to take a shit this morning," Jordan continued, completely oblivious. "Not bragging, just perspective, you know? It's all about mindset. You gotta think bigger. You're driving Uber at 3 in the morning. No judgment, but where's the ambition? The light turned red at 5th Street. Riley stopped, her hands gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping her tethered to earth. In the rearview mirror, she could see Jordan's reflection, his expensive haircut, his careless sprawl across her back seat, his phone with its cracked screen that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She thought about her own phone, a 3-year-old iPhone with a shattered camera and a battery that died at 30%. She thought about her apartment in the Bayview, the one with bars on the windows and gunshots every other night. She thought about her mother's medical bills stacking up like a house of cards about to collapse. She thought about the 19 credit hours she was taking while working 3 jobs because she'd aged out of foster care at 18, with nothing but a garbage bag full of clothes and a social worker's business card she'd never called. "Where's the ambition?" she repeated quietly. "Exactly. You get it." Jordan leaned forward, his breath reeking of tequila and entitlement. "Look, I'm going to give you some advice. Free advice, which normally I charge 10 grand an hour for." "Stop talking." The words came out before Riley could stop them. Jordan blinked, surprised. "What?" "I said stop talking." Riley's voice was steady now, cold as the fog outside. "I'm going to drive you to your luxury tower, and you're going to sit there in silence, and when we get there, you're going to get out of my car." "Excuse me?" Jordan's tone shifted, indignation replacing amusement. "Do you know who I am?" "I don't care who you are." "I could get you fired with 1 phone call, 1 star rating, 1 complaint." Riley met his eyes in the rearview mirror. Hers were dark, exhausted, and absolutely done. "Then do it," she said. "But first, let me tell you something nobody in your life has ever had the guts to say to your face." The light turned green. Riley pressed the gas, her 2009 Honda Civic groaning as it accelerated up the hill. Jordan sat frozen in the back seat, his mouth slightly open, his brain struggling to process what had just happened. No one talked to him like that. Not his employees, not his investors, definitely not a fucking Uber driver. "I'm sorry, did you just—" "14 hours," Riley interrupted, her voice cutting through the car like a scalpel. "That's how long I've been working today. Not today, yesterday. Because it's past midnight, which means technically this is a new day, but I haven't slept yet, so in my reality, 14 hours straight." She turned onto Battery Street, the Millennium Tower rising ahead of them like a monument to everything she'd never have. "I woke up at 4:30 a.m. to catch the bus to my morning shift at the diner. Worked 6 to 10, made $82 in wages and tips, came home, changed, started driving Uber at 11, drove for 4 hours, made $63 after Uber's cut and gas, went to my 1 class of the day, anatomy and physiology, which I'm failing, by the way, because I'm too exhausted to study, then drove Uber for 8 more hours." Jordan opened his mouth. Riley kept talking. "You want to know why I'm driving at 3 in the morning? Because rent is due in 6 days and I'm $400 short. Because my mom had a stroke last year and her medical bills are in collections. Because I aged out of foster care at 18 with exactly $237 to my name and no family to fall back on." The car stopped at a red light. Riley's hands were shaking now, but her voice remained steady. "You made $70,000 while taking a shit. That's cute. You know what I made while taking a shit last week? Nothing, because I can't afford to take bathroom breaks. I pee in bottles between rides. I eat dollar menu food while driving. I haven't been to a dentist in 4 years. Look, I didn't mean to—" Jordan started. "You asked me where my ambition is. Where's my ambition?" Riley's voice rose. "I'm taking 19 credit hours while working 3 jobs. I sleep 4 hours a night if I'm lucky. I'm studying to be a nurse so I can help people like my mom. People who can't afford healthcare, who slip through the cracks, who die because they're too poor to live." She pulled up to the Millennium Tower, its glass facade reflecting the city lights like a beacon of wealth. You know what ambition looks like? Ambition is waking up every single day knowing you're one car accident, one missed shift, one emergency away from homelessness, and getting up anyway. Ambition is going to class after working 14 hours because you know education is your only way out. Ambition is choosing between eating dinner and putting gas in your car so you can keep working. Riley put the car in park and turned around, looking Jordan directly in the eyes for the first time. You want to talk about sacrifice, about hustle, about risk? You risked daddy's money. You risked your Stanford connections. You risked your safety net. I'm risking my life every single day. Because if I fail, there's no trust fund, no investors to bail me out, no network of rich friends. There's just me, homeless, broke, and dead before I'm 30. The car was silent except for the hum of the engine. Jordan stared at her, his champagne buzz evaporating like morning fog. He saw her clearly now, really saw her. The dark circles under her eyes, the uniform shirt from the diner peeking out from under her jacket, the phone holder on her dashboard cracked and held together with tape, the air freshener hanging from a rearview mirror, probably covering the smell of cheap fast food and desperation. You said no one's told you the truth, Riley continued, her voice dropping to something quieter, sadder. So here's the truth. Your success isn't just yours. It's built on people like me. People who serve your food, drive you around, clean your office, deliver your packages. We're invisible to you until we inconvenience you, until we're too slow, until we don't smile enough. She pulled out her phone, ended the ride. Your fare is $18. I'm not charging you. Consider it a gift from someone with no ambition. Jordan reached for his wallet automatically, pulled out a $100 bill. Here, I don't want your money. I'm not trying to. I don't want your guilt money. I don't want your pity. I want you to get out of my car, go up to your penthouse, and actually think about what I said. Think about the system that made you rich and is killing me. Think about how many Rileys are out there drowning while you're popping champagne. She unlocked the doors. Jordan sat there, the $100 bill still in his hand, feeling smaller than he'd felt since he was a kid. I'm sorry, Sarah, he said quietly. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay my rent. Riley turned back around, staring straight ahead. Get out. Jordan opened the door, stepped onto the sidewalk. The fog had thickened, wrapping around the tower's base like a shroud. He turned back to say something else. He didn't know what. But Riley was already pulling away, her taillights disappearing into the San Francisco night. He stood there for a long time, the $100 bill crumpling in his fist, the taste of champagne turning sour in his mouth. For the first time in 10 years, Jordan Blake felt poor. Not financially, but in every other way that mattered. Jordan's penthouse occupied the entire 42nd floor of Millennium Tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the Bay Bridge, the dark water, and the twinkling lights of Oakland beyond. His furniture was mid-century modern, authentic pieces, not reproductions. A Basquiat hung on the wall above his $15,000 Italian leather couch. He'd paid $6.2 million for this place 3 years ago, cash. Now, standing in his living room at 3:15 a.m., Jordan couldn't remember why any of it had seemed important. He dropped his keys on the marble counter, poured himself a glass of water from the filtered tap, and walked to the window. Somewhere out there, Riley was still driving, still grinding through the night, still fighting a battle he'd never had to fight. His phone buzzed, a text from Marcus, one of his co-founders. Bro, that party was insane. Already feeling like death, LMAO. Worth it, though. Jordan stared at the message. 12 hours ago, he would have responded with fire emojis and made plans to do it again next week. Now the words looked hollow, performative, like kids playing dress-up in their parents' clothes. He opened his laptop, fully intending to review the acquisition documents for tomorrow's meeting. Instead, he found himself Googling average cost of living San Francisco single person. The results made his stomach turn. Average rent, $3,000 per month for a studio. Average food costs, $400 to $600 per month. Healthcare without insurance, catastrophic. He thought about Riley's number, $400 short on rent. That was less than he'd spent on bottle service tonight, less than his monthly car insurance, less than the tip he'd left his barber last week. Jordan opened another tab, typed, aging out of foster care statistics. The numbers were brutal. 20% of foster kids who age out become homeless within a year. Only 3% earn a college degree. 25% experience PTSD at rates higher than war veterans. Riley was beating impossible odds just by being alive, let alone going to school, let alone working 3 jobs. He clicked another link, medical bankruptcy statistics. Uber driver earnings after expenses, student loan default rates. Each search pulled him deeper into a reality he'd insulated himself from with money and privilege. His phone rang. His girlfriend, well, not really his girlfriend, Alexis, a model he'd been seeing for 3 months. She probably wanted to know why he'd left the club early. He declined the call. At 4:30 a.m., Jordan was still awake, still searching, still reading. He learned that 40% of Americans couldn't afford a $400 emergency expense. That medical debt was the leading cause of bankruptcy. That the wealth gap in San Francisco was the worst in the nation. That the same tech boom that had made him rich had displaced thousands of families, driving them further and further from the city center into neighborhoods like Bayview, where Riley lived. He pulled up a map of San Francisco, tracing the route from the financial district to Bayview. 16 miles. Might as well have been a different planet. His world, Michelin star restaurants, rooftop bars, venture capital meetings, luxury gyms, private chefs. Her world, dollar menus, overnight shifts, collection calls, survival. Same city, different universes. At 5:47 a.m., Jordan made a decision. He opened his email, typed a message to his assistant. Clear my schedule for today. Something came up. We'll explain later. Then he showered, changed into jeans and a plain black t-shirt, the closest thing he owned to normal clothes, and walked down to the garage. His Tesla sat in its assigned spot, gleaming and perfect and utterly absurd. He'd paid $120,000 for it. Riley's entire car was probably worth $2,000. Jordan got in, pulled up the Uber app on his phone, and did something he'd never done before. He looked at the driver ratings differently, not as a customer evaluating service, but as a window into people's lives. 5 stars, 4.98 stars, 4.95 stars. These weren't just numbers. They were people like Riley, fighting to survive in a gig economy that treated them like algorithms instead of human beings. He typed Riley Martinez, Uber driver, San Francisco, into Google, knowing it was creepy, knowing it was invasive, but unable to stop himself. Nothing came up. Of course nothing came up. She wasn't a public figure. She was just another invisible person keeping the city running. Jordan sat in his Tesla, watching the sunrise paint the bay orange and gold, and realized something that should have been obvious years ago. He was complicit. Every time he tipped 15% instead of 25%. Every time he complained about slow service without wondering why someone might be slow. Every time he walked past a homeless person and thought they should just get a job, without understanding that many of them had jobs. They just didn't pay enough to afford rent in this impossible city. Every time he'd celebrated his own success without acknowledging that it was built on a system designed to keep people like Riley running in place forever. At 7 a.m., Jordan drove to the Valencia Diner in the Tenderloin, the only one he could find that opened early. He ordered coffee and eggs from a tired-looking waitress who reminded him of Riley, left a $50 tip on a $12 check. She looked at the bill like it might disappear if she blinked. Are you sure? She asked. I'm sure. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you. You have no idea. Thank you. She rushed back to the kitchen, and Jordan heard her tell someone, I can pay for Sophia's inhaler refill. One $50 tip. One medical necessity met. That's how close people were to the edge. Jordan finished his coffee, left the diner, and sat in his car for another 20 minutes, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do with this new awareness. He couldn't unsee what Riley had shown him. He couldn't unknow what he now knew. And going back to his old life, the clubs, the champagne, the casual arrogance, felt impossible now. Obscene. His phone buzzed. Another text from Marcus. Dude, where are you? Meeting starts in 30. Jordan looked at the message. Then he made another decision. The Blake Chain conference room occupied the entire 20th floor of a building on Montgomery Street. Glass walls, Herman Miller chairs, a view of the Transamerica Pyramid. 12 people sat around the table. Investors, board members, attorneys. Everyone wore suits. Everyone looked important. Jordan walked in 40 minutes late wearing jeans and a t-shirt. The room went silent. Jordan, what the... Marcus started. I need to say something, Jordan interrupted. He stood at the head of the table, his hands in his pockets. And I need you all to listen. Really, listen. David Chen, the lead investor, frowned. We have a schedule. The acquisition documents need to be... Fuck the schedule. The words came out calm, definitive. Someone gasped. Yesterday, we celebrated closing a $200 million deal. We spent 15 grand on champagne. We toasted our success. We talked about changing the world with blockchain technology. Jordan pulled out his phone, pulled up a photo he'd screenshot from a news article that morning. San Francisco's homeless population had reached 8,000 people. Many of them worked full-time jobs. While we were popping bottles, there were people in this city, our city, working 3 jobs and still sleeping in their cars. People like the woman who drove me home last night. He told them about Riley, about getting in the wrong car, about her 14-hour workday, about aging out of foster care, about the 19 credit hours and the $400 she needed for rent. She told me something that nobody in my life has ever had the guts to say. Our success is built on her failure. The system that made us rich is the same system that's killing her. And we celebrate it. We fucking celebrate it. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Jordan, look, it's tragic, but that's not our responsibility. We're not a charity. Then what the fuck are we? Jordan's voice rose. We're building technology that supposedly democratizes finance, makes it accessible to everyone. But who's it actually helping? Other rich people, other investors, other tech bros who can afford to gamble on crypto. He paced the room, energy coursing through him. Riley can't invest in cryptocurrency. She can't access our revolutionary platform. You know why? Because she's too busy trying to afford insulin for her mom. She's too busy working 3 jobs to survive. Our product isn't for her. It's for us. It's for people who already have money to make more money. David leaned back in his chair. So what are you proposing? We shut down Blake Chain and become a non-profit? No. Jordan stopped pacing. I'm proposing we actually live up to our mission statement. I'm proposing we take 10% of our profit, $20 million from this deal, and create a fund. A real fund. For people like Riley. The room erupted. Everyone talking at once. That's insane. Shareholders will never... We have fiduciary duties. Jordan slammed his hand on the table. The room went silent again. I'm the majority shareholder. I have final say. And here's what's happening. We're creating the Blake Chain Opportunity Fund. $20 million. It's going to provide interest-free microloans to working-class people trying to get education, start businesses, or escape debt. No credit checks. No predatory terms. Just help. Jordan, you're not thinking clearly, Marcus said carefully. You're obviously dealing with something. Maybe take the day off and we can discuss. I'm thinking clearly for the first time in years. Jordan met his co-founder's eyes. Marcus, when was the last time you took the bus? Went to a public hospital? Worried about making rent? Marcus said nothing. Exactly. We're so insulated from reality that we've forgotten there is a reality outside our bubble. Well, I got a reminder last night, a brutal one, and I can't unknow it. I won't unknow it. Sarah Kim, the CFO, spoke up. Even if we did this, and I'm not saying we should, how would it work? How do we identify recipients, prevent fraud, manage distribution? Jordan smiled. First real smile in hours. That's the first good question anyone's asked, and I don't have all the answers yet, but I know someone who does. He pulled out his phone, started typing. Who? Sarah asked. Someone who actually understands what struggling people need, because she's one of them. Riley woke up at 11:30 a.m. to her phone buzzing. She'd fallen asleep at 5 a.m., which meant 6.5 hours, a luxury she rarely afforded herself. Her anatomy textbook lay open on her chest, pages crumpled where she'd passed out mid-study session. The text was from an unknown number. This is Jordan Blake from last night. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need your help with something. It's important. Can we meet? I'll come to you anywhere you want, please. Riley stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the delete button. Then she saw the second message. I'm starting a fund, $20 million, for people like you, but I need someone who actually understands what working class people need to help me not screw it up. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking for your expertise. Name your consulting fee. Riley read it 3 times. This had to be a joke. Some kind of weird guilt trip publicity stunt. But then again, $20 million. If it was real, if even a fraction of it could actually help people like her, wasn't it worth at least listening? She typed back, Coffee, Phil's on 24th, 2 p.m. You're buying. The response came in seconds. I'll be there. Thank you. Riley put down her phone and stared at her ceiling. The water stain in the corner, the crack running diagonally across the plaster. Her apartment was a dump. Her life was exhausting. Her future was uncertain, but maybe, something had just shifted. She got up, showered in the lukewarm water, the hot water heater had been broken for 3 weeks, and tried not to hope. Hope was dangerous when you lived this close to the edge, but it was there anyway, stubborn and small and refusing to die. Phil's Coffee on 24th Street was busy with the lunch crowd, students, artists, young families. Jordan arrived 15 minutes early, ordered 2 coffees, one for himself, one medium iced coffee with cream and sugar for Riley, guessing at what she might like, and sat at a corner table near the window. He'd spent the morning in emergency meetings with lawyers, accountants, and increasingly frustrated board members. The Blake Chain Opportunity Fund was real now. $20 million, legally established, irrevocable. Marcus had threatened to quit. David Chen had called him financially reckless. 2 board members had tendered resignations. Jordan had accepted them all with surprising calm. Some things were more important than keeping everyone comfortable. At 2:03 p.m., Riley walked in. She'd changed out of her Uber driving clothes into jeans and an oversized Cal State hoodie, probably borrowed or thrifted. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked younger in daylight and somehow even more tired. She spotted him, hesitated, then walked over. I got you a coffee, Jordan said, pushing the cup toward her. I didn't know what you liked, so I guessed. Riley sat down, suspicious. Why am I here? Because you're the smartest person I've met in 5 years and I need your help. She laughed. A sharp, disbelieving sound. You don't even know me. I know you're taking 19 credit hours while working 3 jobs. I know you've survived the foster care system. I know you speak truth to power, even when it costs you. That's more than I know about most people I've worked with for years. Riley sipped the coffee. It was exactly right. She hated that it was exactly right. Tell me about this fund. Jordan pulled out his laptop, showed her the documents, the structure, the $20 million commitment, the mission statement he'd written that morning. To provide interest-free financial support to working-class individuals pursuing education, entrepreneurship, or debt freedom. No credit checks, no gatekeeping. Just opportunity. Riley read every word, her expression unreadable. This is either the most cynical PR stunt I've ever seen, or you actually mean it. I mean it. Why? Jordan closed the laptop. Because last night you showed me something I'd been avoiding my entire adult life. I've been complicit in a system that's broken. I've made millions while people like you worked themselves to death just to survive. And I can't unknow that now. I can't go back to celebrating champagne bottles while my Uber driver is crying in the front seat. Riley's jaw tightened. I wasn't crying. But you wanted to. Silence. Look, Jordan continued, I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to like me. I'm asking you to help me do something that actually matters. This fund could help thousands of people, but only if it's designed by someone who understands what those people actually need. And that's not me. That's you. You want me to consult? I want you to run it. Riley choked on her coffee. What? Run the fund, full-time, director position. You set the criteria. You approve the applications. You make sure the money goes to the right people. I'm a nursing student working 3 jobs. I'm not qualified to... You're more qualified than anyone else. You've lived it. You know exactly what barriers people face, what helps and what doesn't, what's real support versus performative charity. Riley set down her coffee. What's the salary? What do you need? The question hung in the air. What did she need? Not want. Need. $80,000 a year, Riley said, her voice steady. Health insurance, dental, vision. Enough to pay off my mom's medical debt, cover my tuition, and actually sleep at night. Done. Plus equity in Blake Chain. You're helping build something. You should own part of it. Riley stared at him. This is insane. Probably, but is it wrong? She thought about every late-night drive, every skipped meal, every moment of crushing fear that one mistake would destroy everything. She thought about her mom in San Diego struggling with stroke recovery and bills they couldn't pay. She thought about the other foster kids she'd known, the ones who hadn't made it, who'd fallen through the cracks because there was no safety net, no second chances. If I do this, Riley said slowly, I'm doing it my way. No corporate bullshit. No hoops for people to jump through. No making people prove they're deserving enough. Agreed. And I want to help foster kids specifically, aging out with nothing. It's a death sentence. The fund needs to prioritize them. Done. And single parents, people with medical debt, people working multiple jobs and still drowning. Yes, all of it. Riley looked at Jordan, really looked at him, saw the exhaustion in his eyes that mirrored her own, saw something that might have been sincerity, or might have been guilt, or might have been both. Okay, she said, I'll do it, but I'm keeping my nursing classes. I'm not giving up on that degree. We'll work around your schedule. They shook hands. Jordan's was soft, uncalloused. Riley's was rough, scarred from years of work. The contrast said everything. 6 months later, the Blake Chain Opportunity Fund had distributed $8 million to 847 people. Single mothers who could finally afford childcare, foster kids who got laptops and tuition assistance, workers who escaped predatory payday loans, students who finished degrees without drowning in debt. Riley ran the fund from a modest office in the Mission District. Not a gleaming tower, but a ground floor space where applicants could walk in without intimidation. She'd hired 3 people, all with similar stories to hers. Keisha, who'd been homeless while working full-time at Target. Miguel, who'd immigrated at 16 and put himself through community college. And Sarah, a single mom who'd been one medical bill away from eviction. They didn't ask applicants for credit scores or collateral or business plans. They asked, "What do you need? How can we help?" And they believed the answers. Jordan had stepped back from day-to-day operations of Blake Chain. He still owned the majority stake, still attended board meetings, but his focus had shifted. He spent 3 days a week working with Riley, learning how to actually help instead of just throwing money at problems. He'd sold his penthouse, moved to a 1-bedroom in the Mission, drove a used Prius. You didn't have to do all that, Riley had told him when he'd first announced the changes. Yes, I did. I can't advocate for economic justice while living in a $6 million penthouse. It's obscene. Now, on a Tuesday evening, they sat in the fund's office, reviewing applications. One caught Riley's attention. Name: Emma Rodriguez. Age: 27. Situation: single mother, works at Valencia Diner, 3 weeks behind on rent, has a sick baby. Riley looked at Jordan. You remember what you told me 6 months ago about your eggs being cold? Every day. People like Emma, people struggling, barely surviving, they're not lazy. They're not unmotivated. They're drowning in a system designed to keep them under. I know. Riley approved Emma's application. $2,500 for rent. $1,000 for childcare costs. $500 for medical expenses. Next, Riley said, moving to the next file. They worked through the evening, approving applications, changing lives with keystrokes and wire transfers. At 8 p.m., Jordan's phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. We miss you at the office. Things aren't the same without you. Jordan typed back, I'm exactly where I need to be. Riley looked up from her laptop. You ever regret it? Blowing up your life because of one conversation with a random Uber driver? Jordan thought about it. Really thought about it. No, he said. I regret every day before that conversation. When I was living in a bubble and calling it success, when I confused wealth with worth, when I looked at people like you and saw nothing. That's very evolved of you. I'm still learning. You're still teaching. Riley smiled, genuine, warm. Then class is still in session. They returned to the applications. Outside, the Mission District hummed with life. Buses and cars, families and workers, all the invisible people keeping the city alive. Inside, 2 people from completely different worlds worked side by side, proving that sometimes the wrong car can take you exactly where you need to go. Sometimes one moment of truth can change everything. Sometimes the system can be broken and rebuilt by people who refuse to accept that suffering is inevitable. Jordan Blake had gotten into the wrong car on a foggy San Francisco night, and Riley Martinez had told him a truth no one else had dared to say. That truth had cost Jordan his comfort, his old life, his easy certainties, but it had given him something infinitely more valuable: purpose, connection, humanity. And maybe, just maybe, that was worth more than $200 million.